Welcome, my pretties. Come in, have a seat as we sip this tea of reality. My name's Autumn,
And I'm Haley.
and today we're talking about the Butcher of Hanover. Party, party.
It is definitely not a party.
God damn. I want it to be a party. Sometime we're going to need it to be a party.
You forgot to say, and this is Don't You Know?
Oh, and this is Don't You Know?
The tale of the Butcher of Hanover.
We'll get there.
Someday. It's all right. We're just going to rap about it right now, because in 1883, Norway exported its most prolific serial killer, Brynhild Palsdatter Sorensen.
That's complicated.
It's a Norwegian name. It's not. Ugh. That was the best I had the first time.
That's cool how it's spelled.
Yeah. Brynhild Palsdatter Sorensen. Though they did not know that at this time, that the young woman would live on to be such a cold-hearted killer. When she was 24, Brynhild would be sent for her by her older sister Nellie or Annie. I saw it in two different sources. I don't know if they got the sisters confused or the names, but Nellie we're going to go with. Nellie sent for her so that she could live in Chicago with her and her husband. This name. Brynhild couldn't have been happier to live her frozen and lonely life, to leave her frozen and lonely life on the shores of her homeland. Once she was finished with immigration, she Americanized her name to Belle Sorensen. She would go on to work in a butcher shop cutting up carcasses. Belle was a romantic, constantly on the lookout for a husband, and with her high bosom and thick waist, she was quite the eye-catcher to the men of her small Norwegian community. Many a suitor would have loved to call Belle their own, but she had fallen for a strong-built guard of a local department store. They were quickly married and hoped to conceive immediately.
Damn, he said, let me bounce that ass real quick.
Take this seed.
Fucking seeds.
Belle was in love with the idea of being a mother, but despite the desire to nurture, she would be unable to have children of her own. Lucky for the newlyweds, they were in a financial way to accommodate foster children, reaching out to poor parents in their community to offer food and shelter in exchange for relinquishing their children to them.
Dude, how lit's that? That's pretty progressive of them, right? Maybe they shouldn't have been access to it, because it doesn't sound like this is going to go great.
It's not going to go great.
Oh, fuck. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt.
No.
Fuck him.
Her dear husband seemed to be a stand-up guy. There's not much information on him, but she had married, his name's down here, but it's Mads.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That would be a lit middle name.
He has a pretty cool name, too.
Maybe I'm just down with the Norwegians. Is that controversial to say?
I don't think so. I don't know many Norwegians, but I'm
either.
sure they're pretty cool people. Except for Belle, but that's neither here nor there. Belle even tried this with her sister, desperate to gain custody of her young niece, but Nellie refused, leaving them to be estranged for several years. Eventually, Belle had herself a small menagerie of infants. Being that the infant mortality rate was high, Belle made sure to insure her children in case of accidental death or injury.
What year is this again?
She came over in 1884. In 1883. They were married in 1884.
Okay.
Spot back here. Her foresight proved fruitful, as two of her infants would pass due to intestinal inflammation and hydrocephaly.
Definitely common.
Yeah. With this insurance money, Mads and Belle were able to purchase a candy shop and foster more children.
Oh, so they got insurance money for the children dying then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure I'd mentioned that Belle put life insurance policies on the children. Mads had one. There was an insurance policy on their candy shop that they would go on to buy. Sometime between purchasing the candy shop and fostering more children, it said that Belle was able to conceive at least one of her own. Now she had 3 children, a husband, and a dying candy shop. Belle was always said to have been a firm but doting mother, never seen to shout or hit the children, only to rear them with patience and affection. Life could not have been happier. save for the unprofitable candy shop. But that was only a momentary setback, as one night, when Belle was working late, a kerosene lamp exploded, burning the place beyond repair. Though the investigation would yield no such discovery of glass or metal bits, the insurance company would still settle a payment. Somewhere in this time, Mads was offered a great job by a shell company claiming to want to hire men to find gold mines out west for them. They offered a too-good-to-be-true benefits package, asking only that Mads put up the money for his startup costs. So who could pass up such an opportunity? A cool $20,000 is a drop in the bucket of the millions in profit shares that the company had promised him. Well, we've all fallen for some type of scam before.
I'll raise my hand.
They got me
hard at least 3 times.
Yeah, that it was a good scam though. Like, fuck them, but we've all been there.
The big one, like the biggest headache one. That one.
Anyone would have fallen for it. Yeah. That's very like, oh shit.
But like, I definitely transferred people money for animals that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And what else? I've lost my credit card a numerous amount of times. My credit card's information's gotten stolen. I buy from shady websites all the fucking time.
And this is why we sign up for fraud alerts.
I actually really don't buy anything really shady. I think the shadiest one that I buy from is Temu.
Yeah.
And that was pretty shady, but like, I still get my stuff.
I mean, 9 out of 10. I haven't had too many disappointing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll buy like small stuff.
So like I said, we've all fallen for those scams. Mads and Belle were no different. On the day Mads was to report for his year-long career, there was no one there to register him. For 2 months, Belle and Mads tried to get in contact with his new employer, but they weren't able to. Broke and in debt, they sued the company and won, but would not regain the money lost due to the shell company being too strained to afford payment. With no other choice, Mads would have to return to his meager pay as a department store guard. This was unacceptable for Belle. Like, I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't playing around with mediocrity either. She was above the mundane middle-class life. Now Belle and Lady Luck must have been best girlfriends, because as it would turn out, Mads' life insurance policy, that was for $2,000, which obviously is quite a bit of money in the late 1800s there.
Damn, must have been doing something right.
Taking out life insurance policies. She was a very good predictor of when tragedy would strike. And as I said, Lady Luck and her were best girlfriends, because as it would be, the policy that was for $2,000 was due to expire. So they had set up to renew a policy or start a new policy for $3,000 to begin the same day. So if he were to die on July 30th, 1900, Belle would be a very wealthy woman.
Mm-hmm. Because that policies overlap on that day.
They overlap. They do. And Belle knew this. And
Very
luck would have it.
strategic lady.
Oh, schemy, and the dreamy. This $5,000 that she would be awarded in the untimely death of her husband would be equivalent to around $150,000 today.
Yeah.
So, like, not sneezing at that. And as luck would have it, on that very day, July 30th, 1900, Mads would come home with a headache and wish to lay down. His lovely wife would provide him with quinine to alleviate the ache and tuck him into bed. Later, when she went to check on him, she would find that he was no longer breathing. She had the doctor rush over and told him of the unfortunate events. He asked for the envelope of the quinine powder to examine the leftovers, but Belle had already thrown it out.
Ah, convenient.
Very. Convenient, and he was skeptical, but he had no other choice but to rule the death accidental. Once again, the insurance settled the sum, and Belle was well-to-do.
Impressive she won it.
It's a good thing that she made sure the policies overlapped on that day. It's almost as if she knew Mads would die.
Huh.
Intuition is a girl's best friend.
Crazy.
Wanting to flee the wake of so much tragedy, Belle would buy a pig farm in LaPorte, Indiana, moving her and her children away from Chicago. A short 2 years later, after taking out many ads for a husband in the newspaper, Belle would settle for Peter Guinness. They would be married in April 1902. Peter also had an infant daughter that came with him, so of course Belle was excited for another child to love. But just as Lady Luck was Belle's best friend, so was tragedy. Peter's daughter would mysteriously pass a week later while in the care of Belle so that Peter could travel for work.
All right. That's
And
gross.
we did say that infant mortality rate was high,
Yeah.
but 3-to-1 woman, who knows?
Odds are kind of stacking.
Death seemed to follow Belle right at the heel.
Mm-hmm.
As 8 months into their marriage, tragedy would strike again as Peter reached for a meat grinder that was atop a high shelf. It fell into his head, causing a traumatic brain injury that would lead to his death.
Uh-huh. Yeah. She definitely wasn't standing on that counter at all, was she?
No, definitely
He
wasn't above
probably-
him.
He probably wasn't supporting her, and she definitely didn't just drop it.
No,
did she?
sitting there at the bottom of his feet, nagging him so that he's not paying attention, but it's precariously perched on the edge.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
convenient.
So
So unlucky in all of her luck. The coroner could not be convinced that Peter's death was a mere accident, and even convened a coroner's jury, but nothing would become of the case.
Well,
This one was a little harder for...
The coroner was like, I'm here an awful lot.
Her daughter had also said that Belle was above and dropped the meat grinder on her father's head.
Hmm.
So,
You have a
out of the
witness.
mouth of babes. But that's just hearsay. This led to another hefty insurance settlement for Belle Gunness, a woman as greedy and callous as Bluebeard himself,
Damn.
who was a very callous and murderous pirate. It didn't take long for Belle to move on from mourning. She began placing marriage ads for a new husband. One such ad being answered by a farmhand named Henry Gerholt in 1905. He traveled to Lamphere to meet Belle. It must have been love at first sight because he wrote his family saying that he liked the farm, that he was in good health, and asking that they send him potato seeds. But that was the last they ever heard of him. They contacted Belle, who would tell him that he had abandoned her to go off with horse traders to Chicago, though later she was found to be in possession of his trunk and fur coat. Never deterred in her romantic efforts, Belle would continue to take out marriage ads and ads for farmhands, and a year later she would meet John Moe from Minnesota, who would answer one of these ads. They had exchanged letters where Belle would encourage him to withdraw a large sum of money in cash, saying not to trust the banks or the wire transfers, but to sew the bills into the lining of his underwear. Thinking with his little John, he did as she requested and traveled to meet her in Lamphere. This would be the last anyone ever saw of John, though a carpenter who was working nearby would accuse Belle of maintaining John's trunk, among others. It did not take long for Belle to be the gossip of the town.
Well, no shit.
Men come to her house and they disappear in the middle of the night.
Yeah. She's
How
not
odd.
hiding it.
It's very not. But she's going around town and like, how unfortunate I am that I
Woe is
always find
me.
farmhands that
just
leave me.
die.
I don't understand. I have thick thighs and pretty eyes, and because she was known to be a handsome woman, like I said, the men of her community, they liked them thick. She was girthy in the waist,
Same.
and I've got some pictures down below.
Yeah, I saw them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is a handsome woman. I mean, like, ain't nothing wrong with being thick, but I mean, maybe I'm looking at her different because I know she's a fucking serial killer. But did I drop the bomb on that? Did we all not get that she was killing these people? Or maybe I let the cat out of the bag a little too early. Spoiler alert!
Oh
Did
my
we give a trigger
gosh.
warning? We didn't give a trigger warning in the
I have-
warning.
I have one saved for me.
Oh, okay.
I
We
can
good.
put
We
it
good.
in. Whatever the last one you did was, I have it saved.
Sweet. Oh, that one sounds like crap because it's like.
Trigger warning. You're right. It's not that bad.
All right.
I don't mind it. You're good.
So she's the gossip of the town. Everyone would see the farmhands come and go at an alarming rate and have to hear Belle complain about how they always left her high and dry and that she was left to tend her farm alone. She would be seen wearing their hats and boots and the coats of her victims, and though she was the talk of the town and everyone was a little bit suspicious of her, she was undeterred. This is also the tragic life of another farmhand that Belle wished to become her husband, Andrew, and I'm sorry, Helgelian. I did look up how to pronounce it, but I've since forgotten. It's been a long day.
I'm not sure.
But this man, I do believe, would fall in love with her 16-year-old daughter, Jenny. They would meet in secret and had plans to flee Belle and her pig farm, until, that is, one morning, Andrew would wake to find a letter from Jenny that she had wished to go to university instead of be married to him, and left for California. Of course, this devastated Andrew, so he fled Belle's lustful advances. But actually, she killed him too. Yeah, she was straight up murdering these men for their money. She even killed her daughter to evade the younger's competition. She's a soulless gold-digging cunt.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Oh, the movie's called The Farm.
Yeah, 'cause it's another pig farm serial killer.
This actually might be a different one. It's called The Farm, America's most prolific, which we already covered. If you haven't listened to our very first episode about Eileen Wuornos, this seems to be a false claim because as far as I remember, Eileen Wuornos was the most prolific.
This is Norway's most prolific
This one
female
says
serial killer.
America.
Well, I
And that's
mean,
not
it
good.
was in America, but she's
Norwegian.
She's a Norwegian immigrant. So
Oh, okay.
that's where we're going to make the distinction.
Okay. But it's new. It's this year, 2023.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Look how fun. We have a homework assignment. Andrew's brother would become suspicious of his last correspondence with Andrew, not believing that he would just run off and they were close,
Yeah.
So he's like, he wouldn't just run off in the middle of the night and not say anything to me. Just be like, peace out, bro. So he contacted Belle and said that he wanted to have, come and have a conversation with her, go through his brother's things to see if there was any clue as to why he was so quiet.
He was missing his little brother.
Yeah. Belle sensing that the jig was up, she concocted an evil plan. She would ask her lover, Ray Lamphere, who was aware of her murder scheme and was later arrested while wearing items of some of her victims, Moe's coat and Gerholt's watch. Belle would ask Ray to burn the house down with her children inside, but before he could do that, she would need to insure their lives and possessions. In 1908, Belle would run to her insurance broker and demand that he insure her farm because she felt that her lover and farmhand, Ray, was going to harm her and her family somehow, possibly burning the house down. She got her way just in time for her horrid premonition to come true. The house did burn down, revealing the headless body of a middle-aged woman and 3 children.
Oh my god.
Dude.
This is terrible.
Dude. It's like, now don't get me wrong, all of these murders are absolutely horrendous, unnecessary, and fucking tragic.
Yeah.
But can you imagine using your kids as a fucking ATM card?
Yeah.
For 20 years, you're just, I'm going to take out a life insurance policy and then poison this infant.
Yep.
Like.
Gross human.
For money.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know what? I'll give her the title of prolific serial killer because, like, kids.
Yeah.
I mean, Eileen was killing
adult
men.
But she was very, very damaged.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure Belle here, she did grow up, in a time of, sparseness.
Yeah. But
there's not much on her early life. Can't attest to it.
Anyway, so she kills her children.
Yep.
And someone else for the headless body, I'm assuming.
Oh.
Yeah,
You're very perceptive, dear sister.
That was my first, oh my goodness, is that, yes, she killed her kids, but she also killed someone to frame herself, which was even
It was
more.
a headless body. The head was never discovered. And upon further investigation, the authorities discovered partial remains of 11 other people. So at least 11. And those were partial remains. She did have a pig farm, mind you.
Yeah, and pigs.
I did not read or hear any evidence of her having fed people to her pigs, but
they also eat and ingest, and they wouldn't have had DNA testing at that time.
Exactly. I'm not saying that she did. I'm not saying that she didn't.
But there's
plenty of bodies
There's
behind
enough
her.
evidence to maybe assume.
I would definitely make that assumption.
Yeah. So 11 corpse.
They found 11 people. Ray Lamphere was arrested for arson and murder. At first, he would deny any knowledge or involvement in Belle's affairs outside of aiding her in farm work, though he would later be tricked into a signed confession. In the confession, Lamphere said that he had killed Mrs. Guinness and the children with an axe, sprinkled the bodies with kerosene, and set fire to them and the house. It gave details of the slaying and told of his part in the former murders which occurred at the Guinness farm, his task usually being the burying of the bodies in the garden. The essential fact, however, was that the murderess was not alive as a fugitive. He would later go on to recant that confession and say that he did burn the house down, but he had no part in the murder of the headless woman, suspected to be Belle, or any of the 3 children, or any of the previous murders of the farmhands that would come to work on her farm.
Well, you're definitely not innocent, so.
No, he was burying the bodies. He was knowledgeable of the murders and was burying the bodies for her. So he was culpable. He was an accomplice, but he denied any involvement in the murder itself. But he was still arrested, detained, and during his trial, Ray claimed that Belle killed and disposed of a number of men on her property. And as reported by the Pulp International, Ray said Belle was solely responsible for the killing and dismembering of her victims. However, he admitted to helping her dispose of the bodies. According to Ray, Belle killed the men for financial gain in the form of insurance payments or the cash and possessions they left behind after they were dead. Although he admitted to assisting Belle in her deadly scheme, Ray denied any involvement in her murder. In fact, he claimed the body found in Belle's basement could not have been her because the woman was at least 6 inches shorter than Belle. She was also slimmer in the waist. But they did find some of her gold teeth left behind in the ashes, which one doctor will attest that could only have fallen out of her skull due to the fire dehydrating them and the teeth falling out. Not that she could have pulled them out, had to have been the fire, but where's the head?
Yeah.
There's teeth, but there's no head?
Are you saying she's never found?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Ray said Belle killed her 3 children and a local woman and left their bodies in the basement of her home. She then allegedly disposed of the woman's head in the swamp. According to Ray, Belle convinced him to burn down the house and meet her at another location. Although he said they both planned to escape together, Belle allegedly never showed up. Nevertheless, Pulp International reports Ray's claims have never been proven, and Belle was never heard from again. Ray was ultimately acquitted of the murder charges but found guilty of arson. 1 year after his conviction, Ray died of consumption while incarcerated. Belle Gunness was pronounced dead, even though the doctor performed the post-mortem testified the headless body was 5 inches shorter and about 50 pounds lighter than Gunness. No explanation was provided for what happened to the body's head. Whether Gunness died in the fire or escaped remains uncertain, although the sheriff blamed a Chicago American reporter for inventing the escaped story. Reported sightings of Gunness in Chicago area continued long after she was declared dead. At the time the police looked into the reports of the woman suspected to be Belle, none of which led to her apprehension. In 2008, DNA tests were performed on the headless corpse in an attempt to compare DNA in the corpse against a sample from a letter Gunness had sent to one of her victims. But due to its age, the sample was not able to be properly tested.
I would assume that.
I mean,
Yeah.
over 100 years.
DNA starts to die immediately, so.
Even frozen and preserved, it's gonna.
At least cats do. You know how many times I've taken my cats to the fucking doctor? They tell me that shit all the time. They're like, well, we do have samples, but DNA does die over time, so we need to take more samples.
Money, money, money.
I actually don't have to pay for the more samples.
Oh, well.
But, I mean, yeah, they were cool, but they still had to do it. I still learned that fun fact about cats, so I'm just assuming it's probably very similar to adults and humans. Not just adults, humans.
Yeah, I'm no DNA expert, but I would say that's a fair assumption. After Gunness's crimes came to light, the Gunness farm became a tourist attraction. Spectators came from across the country to see the mass graves, and concessions and souvenirs were sold. Moreover, the crime became an acknowledged part of the area's history. The LaPorte County Historical Society Museum has a permanent Belle Gunness exhibit. It's not too far away from here, so we might have to, take a horror trip sometime.
Say where it is again.
LaPorte, Indiana.
Okay. She gets her own museum, though.
Not a whole
Well,
museum.
what?
The Historical Society has an exhibit. Yeah, the glorification, but it's still like...
It's still cool. I'll still do
Still gonna
it.
go see it.
I'll still see it. I'll still enjoy it.
Be like, this bitch. This gold
I just
digging
can't believe you
motherfucker.
killed your fucking kids. But I know exactly why she did it. She just killed her whole life. Changed
Financial
her name.
gain. Like,
Probably pulled her teeth.
I would say so.
And then...
Like, there is some shrinkage in fire, but a whole 50 pounds and 5 inches.
Yeah. No.
And, like, they did include the height of her head in that. They've been like,
Yeah.
her head would have been approximately 8 inches
Yeah.
at, coupled that with whatever's left over from the body. She's still short 5 fucking inches. She was a taller lady. I think she was like 5'7".
Yeah. Okay. So my height.
Yeah.
I'm a tall lady.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't ever think 5'7" is that tall. And then I get around everybody else and I'm like, you guys are fucking short.
How's the weather up there?
But short people.
Yes. And that, my dear pretties, is the short version of Lady Bluebeard, Belle Gunness, Norway's most prolific female serial killer.
So no one ever found her.
Nope, there were sightings afterwards. People suspected that she
Killed her
concocted this
family.
whole plan.
Killed her family.
Killed
moved,
her
changed
family
her
and
name.
moved on, changed her name.
Probably continued elsewhere. Like, very much.
I'm sure she was still committing insurance fraud somehow.
Oh, yeah. It makes me it reminds me of...
This is how you remind me of...
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde, why?
It's just the
They were
moving
bank
around.
robbers.
The moving around.
Oh.
Yeah, no, nothing else other than the moving around. Changing the name, deleting
Migrating
everything.
serial killers.
Yeah, we'll have to cover Bonnie and Clyde.
I'm down.
I just don't hear her talk about it a lot, and I really don't know the story.
It's an intriguing story. I mean,
I know there's tons of movies, and I know there's like...
Yeah, of course. And they've been romanticized and glorified and...
I want to know the real story.
Yeah. We'll have to dive in and separate separate myth from fiction.
All right. This has been another episode of Don't You Know?
Oh, you don't have a sip of stupidity you want to share?
I didn't even fucking prepare one. Research on the pod.
Research. While she's researching, I'm going to give a short recap of her victims. Mad Sorensen, her first husband. Peter Guinness, her second husband. 3 infants that she had fostered. Her adopted daughter Jenny Olsen. Her 3 children, Myrtle, 11, Lucy, 9, and Philip, 5. John Moe, Andrew Heglelian, Henry Gerhold, and 11 unidentified men. For a more in-depth look into this case, I highly suggest the Serial Killer podcast hosted by Thomas Wyborg Thune. Really like that. It's a 3-part episode, and he really dives into Lady Bluebeard. We'll be posting some of the newspaper clippings, a couple of crime scene photos, and a family portrait of Belle and her 3 children. Did I not
Where
put that
will
in
we
here?
be posting them, Haley?
I don't know. You control the Instagram.
That was a plug for the social medias.
Okay. You can reach us on Instagram at Dontchaknowpod. We also have a website where you can find a short synopsis and an uploaded MPV, an audio version. This is an audio version. We have a website, don'tyouknowpod.com. What else do we have? You can send us an email at don'tyouknowpod.com at outlook.com. I just lost all my fucking brain cells. You can also email us at don'tyouknowpod at outlook.com. We have a TikTok, but we don't post anything yet. That's at Don't You Know Pod. What else do we have?
Instagram.
I said
I know
Instagram.
you did. I was just going to go through them in my head.
Oh.
God, nothing funny is popping up. Jesus.
Send in any case suggestions or personal stories that you just want to share.
Okay, so we're going to start doing this thing at the end of some episodes called Sip of Stupidity. And it is whatever I can conjure up that I think is funny. And that might be random ass shit. And if you don't like it, skip it. So that is the intro to Sip of Stupidity.
Tits of stupidity.
Sips with an S. Or tits, because boobs are great too.
Boobs are great.
So today, on my Sip of Stupidity, is weird facts, because that's what I could find. I want to find some funny news stories and read some articles, but every time I looked up Funny News America, it came up with NPR shit, and it irritated me. So our first weird fact. I'm on weareteachers.com. Okay, so there's my source. We're gonna read some of our favorite weird fun facts. So number 1 is Australia is wider than the moon.
Yes, it is.
The moon sits about 2,113 miles in diameter, while Australia's diameter from east to west is almost 2,485 miles. Fun fact number 2. Headphones can increase the bacteria in your ears. Wearing headphones for just an hour could increase bacteria in your ears by 700 times. Now I'm fucked because I wear headphones all day at work.
I was going to say my earbud is constantly in.
So, ew, as the website says. We'll just do a couple of these. Number 3. Scotland chooses the unicorn as its national animal.
Mm-hmm. How fanciful.
I mean, that really explains itself. I don't think I need to read the synopsis for that. Number 4. Avocados are not vegetables.
They're fruit, right?
Avocados are fruits. Avocados are fruit because they are single-seeded berries. Fun fact number 5. The Eiffel Tower gets taller in the summer.
Mm-hmm. The heat expands.
Yep. When the iron heats up, the tower can be up to 6 inches taller due to thermal expansion. We'll just do 10 fun facts. And this one kind of relates. Human teeth are the only part of the body that can't heal themselves.
Yeah, once they start going down, they're going down.
Teeth are not made of live tissue and are coated in enamel, which can't spontaneously regenerate. Number 7. Switzerland prohibits the ownership of just one guinea pig.
Yeah, they can die of loneliness.
Since guinea pigs are such social creatures, one guinea pig would get lonely. So having just one is considered animal abuse in Switzerland. Period, Switzerland.
I had guinea pigs.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Number 8. Tigers have striped skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just fur. Number 9. A shrimp heart is in its head.
Gnarly.
If that wasn't interesting enough, according to weareteachers.com, due to the nature of their open circulatory system, shrimps have no arteries, and their organs just float around in blood.
Shrimps?
Mm-hmm. They're tasty. And our fun fact number 10, which is cute and innocent, is an 11-year-old accidentally invented ice pops. In 1905, young Frank Epperstein left water and soda powder outside overnight with a wooden stirrer in a cup. When he discovered the mixture had froze, the Epsticle was born. I love that name, the Epsticle. I'll spell it for you. I'm not saying it wrong. EPSICLE.
Cute.
Epsticle. That is adorable. those were my sips of stupidity for the day. I'm sure I'll edit out a lot of my jumble jamble.
That's okay.
So it'll go down to the right amount of time. But this has been another episode of Don't You Know? My name is Autumn.
And I'm Haley.
Don't forget to follow us on all our social medias. Instagram. We're not on Facebook, not on Twitter. TikToks, whatever Haley covered. Send us an email, whatever Haley covered. And don't forget to lock your doors.